From the nation's capital, Monrovia. Good afternoon and welcome to King's News, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Friday, September 19, 2025, and I'm Newton Tucker presenting. Stories will follow in this afternoon. State prosecutors demand new medical examination for 6 Capitol building arson defendants at AMR Expeditionary Healthcare Medical Center, but defense lawyers take exception, say the facility lacks independence. Liberian government removes more than 1,000 public school teachers for national payroll. Authorities of the Ministry of Education classified them as non-performing teachers. President Joseph Walker suspends Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Brian McGill. This after intense pressure from civil society groups for the Liberian National Police request forensic equipment to commence full investigation of McGill's rape allegation. Away from Liberia, the head of Malawi's Electoral Commission has warned political parties not to prematurely declare the electoral victory, saying they should wait for the official results. A 3,000-year-old gold bracelet that disappeared from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo was stolen and melted down, Egypt's Interior Ministry says. These plus the news bulletin, our international developments are all packaged, but we are taking a very short break. We'll be right back. At this juncture, we cross over to Sam Andrews with the news bulletin.
State prosecutors have ordered fresh medical examination for 6 of the Capitol building arson defendants at AMI Expeditionary Health Medical Center, following dissatisfaction with the initial report. The move follows claims made by the defendants that they were tortured and sodomized while in police custody. Judge Roosevelt Willie has ruled that the examination be conducted at AMI Sinker facility and complete with all costs covered by the Ministry of Justice. But defense lawyers argued that AMI is no more an independent health facility, giving its alleged ties to both the Ministry of Justice and the Liberia National Police, the very institutions accused of abuse. Defense lawyers who are said to be consulting on the next steps have raised serious concerns about AMI impartiality. They cited the case of co-defendant Thomas Enrich, who collapsed during the interrogation and was treated at AMI, where he was diagnosed with malaria despite visible signs of physical trauma. At the same time, the First Judicial Circuit Court Criminal Court A at the Temple of Justice has scheduled the hearing for Wednesday, September 24th, into the ruling on the motion to suppress evidence in the high-profile criminal case involving several individuals. The judge, Roosevelt Willie, is expected to deliver the ruling that could impact the codes of the case, particularly regarding the admissibility of key evidence. President Walker has suspended Deputy Minister for Youth Development, Brian McGill, at the Ministry of Youth and Sports for allegedly raping a 14-year-old girl. The decision was taken in line with the government's zero-tolerance policy toward all forms of sexual and gender-based violence and to ensure a fair and transparent investigation. The Ministry of Education has announced the removal of over 1,000 teachers from the national payroll who are classified as non-performing teachers. According to authorities of the Ministry of Education, the move is part of ongoing efforts to reform and improve the country's educational system. Making the disclosure on behalf of the Minister of Education at media briefing, Acting Education Minister Anthony at Law Yankan Fogba said those affected are teachers who have refused to honor their official assignments in other parts of the country. Mr. Fokwa noted that the action by the affected teachers have resulted to various or serious abandonment of school-going children in those parts of the county. The Office of the Establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court in Liberia says the traditional justice system is not focusing on establishing a tribunal that will prosecute and jail people suspected of crimes, but rather victims who were severely injured, resulting to disability, to receiving redress. The executive director of the office, Councillor Jalababu, disclosed that the office is drafting a legislation that would take into consideration all sectors of the Liberian society. He made a disclosure at the dedication of the newly acquired headquarters of the National Union of Organizations of the Disabled in Monrovia. At the same time, the National Commission on Disabilities has called on the national legislature to include the National Union of Organizations of the Disabled in the budget. The executive director of the commission, Samuel Dane, said the institution, like the Federation of Liberian Youth and the Liberia Albino Society, is seeking the welfare of people with disabilities. Mr. Dane also appealed to President Barker to ensure an executive order that will compare all ministries, agencies, and commission, as well as bureaus, to establish disabilities decks to address issues affecting people with disabilities. Feminist Vic Joan Water and a group of women rights campaigners Thursday stormed the headquarters of the Liberia National Police, demanding the arrest of Deputy Minister for Youth Development, Brian McGill. The activists said they no longer tolerate what they described as deliberate delays in handling Deputy Minister McGill's alleged rape case. Medical reports have since confirmed that the minor was allegedly tampered with, but the authorities of the Liberia National Police are yet to effect the arrest of Brian McGill, something many people describe as police shielding the alleged rapist because of his political status. The Liberia Electricity Corporation has announced the commissioning of a facility-scale solar farm, which is expected to add 20 megawatts of electricity to the national grid and expand access to power across the country. Expected to be commissioned in November, the project is described as the country's first ever scaled solar so far. According to LEC, the facility located in Harrisburg, Monserrate County, was launched in October 2024 to address Liberia's chronic power shortage, particularly during the dry season when hydropower production declines. A statement issued by LEC described the initiative as part of the government's commitment under the National Energy Impact to connect 100,000 households annually and increase electricity access to 75% of the population, up from the current 32.7%. The superintendent of Magibi County, O.J. Morris, has described the fight against illegal drugs in Liberia as a national emergency, calling on the government to take a holistic approach. Speaking at a gathering Thursday, Superintendent Morris emphasized that the fight against the narcotic substances should not be left solely to the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. He said tackling the growing drug problem is a shared responsibility that demands collective action from all sectors of society. The Liberia National Red Cross Society, in collaboration with the National Disaster Management Agency, Thursday provided updates on the ongoing implementation of the Economic Community of West African States Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations funded project. The initiative supports more than 1,800 disaster-affected families across 4 counties: Lofa, Grand Jida, Montserrado, and Nimba. Speaking during a joint press briefing in Monrovia, George Blamo, General Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of Liberia National Red Cross Society, reaffirmed the Red Cross commitment to humanitarian excellence and interagency collaboration. Meanwhile, the Liberia National Red Cross Society Executive Director noted that the livelihood component is set to reach 1,820 disaster-affected families, each of whom will receive 250 United States dollars. He stressed that the selection of beneficiaries was based on needs assessment conducted in 2024 from a list of provided by the National Disaster Management Agency and is undergoing rigorous field verification to ensure accuracy, transparency, and fairness. The Liberia National Students Union has given the government of Liberia 48-hour ultimatum to release over 7 students of the university who were arrested by the Liberia National Police. Recently, the Liberia National Police arrested over 7 militants of the Student Unification Party who were linked to a protest at the University of Liberia campuses. In a release issued Thursday, Linsu condemned the decision by the government to arrest and detain students who the union believed were exercising their constitutional rights. According to the student group, the action by the Liberia National Police to arrest the protesting students is a reckless display of state power, which they believe contravenes the true essence of democracy. Liberian People's Party political leader Councillor Tiawan Gonglo has clarified recent remarks that sparked debate within Liberia's media community, noting that his message was a call for ethical journalism and not an attack on the press. In a statement titled, "A Respectful Plea for a Stronger Liberian Press," Councillor Tiawan Gonglo emphasized his long-standing defense of press freedom and reiterated his commitment to a free and independent media in Liberia. According to him, his recent caution against mercenary journalism was not an attack on the profession, rather a plea for ethics and professionalism to be upheld in the profession. Councillor Tiawangonglo said while most responses were positive, he acknowledged valid concerns raised about delayed government payments and limited advertising support for private media. Factors, he said, have weakened the industry. And the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has arrested a 51-year-old businesswoman, Helena Allison, in Fishtown, River G County, with a large quantity of 3 pills of tramadol and over 100 rounds of live ammunition. According to the LDEA, River G detachment agents conducted a search operation at Allison's business premises following a tip-off from community members and discovered 3 pills of tramadol tablets valued at approximately Liberian dollars 36,300, along with 116 rounds of single-barrel ammunition.
Sam Andrews with the news bulletin. The news bulletin is regularly featured here at King's Newsroom. What if you just joined us? A reminder, you listen to King's Newsroom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Friday, September 19th, 2025. My name is Newton Tokwa presenting stories we follow in this afternoon. State prosecutors demand new medical examination for 6 Capitol building asset defendants at EMR Expeditionary Healthcare Medical Center, but defense lawyers take exception, says the facility lacks independence. Liberian government removed more than 1,000 public school teachers for national payroll. Authorities of the Ministry of Education classified them as non-performing teachers. President Joseph Boakai suspended Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports Brian McGill. This after intense pressure from civil society groups for the Liberian National Police request forensic equipment to commence full investigation of McGill's rape allegation. The way from Liberia, the head of Malawi's Electoral Commission has warned political parties not to prematurely declare electoral victory, saying they should wait for the official results. A 3,000-year-old gold bracelet that disappeared from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo was stolen and melted down, Egypt's interior ministry says. We take another short break. When we come back, we'll bring you voices of the news makers. On our first development here this afternoon, the government of Liberia, through the Ministry of Education, has announced the removal of over 1,000 teachers from the national payroll who are classified as non-performing teachers. According to authorities of the Ministry of Education, the move is part of an ongoing efforts to reform and improve the country's educational system. Making the disclosure on behalf of the Ministry of Education during Mika press briefing Thursday, Acting Education Minister Anthony Nyeket Fokpa said those affected are teachers who have refused to honor their official assignments in other parts of the country. Fokpa noted that the action by the affected teachers have resulted to serious abandonment of school-going children in those parts of the country.
The minister, during the last budget year, this current budget year that's about to conclude, petitioned the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning and the legislature for funding to enroll about 2,000 of our volunteer teachers who are vetted, qualified on the payroll. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, in concert with the legislature, said they could provide funding for 1,000 volunteers to be enrolled on the payroll. Then, on our own volition, having realized that there were many teachers on our payroll who refused to go to the areas of assignment. There are teachers on the payroll who, for example, supposed to be assigned in Grand Jide, in one country, in Lofa, in Bakuru, and other places, who were taking salaries and leaving our children on attendance in the classroom. So we did the assessment and we identified around 1,000 of such teachers. Gave them the opportunity to come to the Ministry of Education to show reason why they should not be removed from the classroom, owing to the fact that they abandoned our classroom and left our children unattended. Because about 1,000 of them could not show any valid reason why they were not in our classrooms, we removed 1,000 of them from the payroll and replaced them with 1,000 volunteer teachers, the actual people who were in our classroom during the work. On my way here, I contacted the CSA to ask how far we were with enrolling the volunteer teachers on the payroll. I was told, and I will state, that as of this morning, 217 volunteer teachers have been processed to receive salaries for September. An additional 600 volunteers. Personnel action notices have been processed. They are on the DG desk for signature. The CSA show us that between now and of October, they will do all that they can do to ensure that our volunteer teachers are all enrolled on the payroll.
Minister Fokpat also disclosed that as part of its engagement with the Civil Servant Agency for the Well-being of all teachers, 417 out of 2,000 identified volunteer teachers have already been processed to begin receiving salaries beginning September, adding that the remaining will be added by October.
Anything relative to fees, school closure, report. Having said that, I would now like to be clear on the issue of graduation fees. We've had many about graduation fees. Parents are calling all across the country because the schools, notwithstanding the fees that we specify in the academic calendar, some have chosen to take matters in their own hands and charge our students astronomical fees. The legislature states that the graduation fee for 12th grade public school is 5,000 Liberian dollars. Public school 12th grade graduation fee is 5,000 Liberian dollars. Private school 12th grade 100 US dollars. 6th and 9th grade public school 3,500 Liberian dollars. 6th and 9th grade public school 3,500 Liberian. Private schools 6,000 Liberian dollars. Kindergarten public school graduation fee 2,500. Private school 5,000 Liberian. We wanted to state this on the record. First, we show you the source of our authority to set fees. We're now telling you about the fee. We'd like to inform all of our partners in the education space and encourage them to abide by these fees. Because the law also gives us the authority to fine people who are found to be in violation.
He's acting Education Minister Anthony Nyeket Fokpa there speaking. The Office of the Establishment of War and Economic Crimes Court in Liberia says the transitional justice system is not focusing on establishing a tribunal that will prosecute and jail people suspected of crimes, but rather for victims who were severely injured, resulting to disabilities to receive redress. The executive director of the office, Councillor Jala Babu, disclosed that the office is drafting a legislation that would take into consideration all sectors of the Liberian society. He made a disclosure at the dedication of the newly acquired headquarters of the National Union of Organization of the Disabled, located in Monrovia, the first day.
The War and Economic Crimes Court is now focused on establishing a court just for people to be tried and put in jail. We go beyond that as an office. It is a transitional justice process. And by that process, we also take into account the rights of people to receive redress other than being satisfied that people have gone to jail. It means, therefore, that several thousands and thousands of people suffered as a result of the war. They would not have been the situations that they are in had it not been because of the civil crisis. Therefore, they definitely do need redress beyond people going to court. The law we are drafting is taking that into account so that tomorrow, when the law is passed, there will be a provision in there on that. However, I cannot, as a person, say conclusively that I know what you're thinking about, I know your heart's desire, and I know your concern. For that reason, we don't need to consult you, not by sight. You are an integral part of the code-making process. That is why we've always encouraged and appreciated NODE that has come to all of the transitional justice meetings to participate, to make their views felt, and all of those. I want to say today, I thank NODE for making itself present in the various activities that we have had. That said, I want to encourage you to bring many, many more people to the meetings. At the same time, I want to assure you that now that you have an office, in our own little weak way, we'll make our contributions that we can make for the office to continue to grow.
Also speaking, Director General of Civil Service Agency, that's Josiah Joket, called on heads of ministries, agencies, commissions, and bureau of government to give people with disabilities equal opportunities for employment. According to Joket, people with disability have been marginalized over the years, but the government of President Joseph Boakai would never allow discrimination against any Liberian because of deformity.
For too long, I must tell you the truth that people with disabilities have been pushed at the margins of our society. Too often, they have been seen as objects of pity instead of partners in progress. This is not about a symbol of silence. This is a great symbol of voice that refuses to be ignored. Noah is really standing tall against all odds and by standing tall. Noah is reminding us that the dignity of a nation is measured by how it treats those who are vulnerable. So there is a responsibility on the part of the government. And as Director General of the Civil Service Agency, I must be very honest with you that government has a sacred duty. And our Constitution guarantees that equal opportunity for every citizen. Our international commitments behind us shows that there must be inclusion at all levels and that our conscience demands that we all must act now. It is not enough for us to be making speeches. It is not enough for us to pass laws. We must take action. And it must be real, it must be concrete actions. And those actions must change lives. Because disability rights are not favors to be granted, not at all. They are human rights to be protected. What must we do? First, we must open the doors of employment. The civil service must not be closed to people with disabilities. Recruitment, promotion, and workplace accommodation must reflect inclusivity. So we must ensure inclusivity. We must ensure that they have access to employment like every other Liberian. They must have access to other opportunities in the civil service. Second, we must open up doors of education. Schools, vacation centers, and training programs must empower persons with disabilities to learn, to grow, and also to compete. They must be provided such equal opportunities. Third, we must open up the doors of accessibility. Our schools, our hospitals, our offices, and public spaces must not be barriers. They must be open, accessible, and welcoming to all.
He's the Director General of the Civil Service Agency, Josiah Jockett. Earlier, you heard the voice of the head of World and Economic Crimes Court, Councillor Jala Babu. At the same time, National Commission on Disability has called of the disabled international budget. The executive director of the commission, Samuel Dean, said note, like the Federation of Liberian Youth and the Liberian Albino Society, is seeking the welfare of people with disabilities.
But I also wanted the government to step it up a notch, as we know that NUD, like the FLAG, Federation of Liberian Youth, the Albino Society, and other organizations that have been subsidized by the government, is a struggling entity. And we will speak on behalf of persons with disabilities to drive awareness on their plights. So I think it's only fair if the government can step it up a notch, in addition to the office, provide a budgetary allotment for NUD so that it can be able to carry on its function years. But we hope that under our watch, our arrest agenda for inclusive development that was inspired by persons with disabilities will reap the fruit of their labor under this administration. It's also my effectual fervent prayers that ministry and agencies will effectuate the arrest agenda, specifically Pillar 6, which is or decks for person with disability in each office. Now, a lot of ministry and agency does that for gender inclusivity. We hope and we pray and we expect, because it's our human rights, our fundamental human rights, it's not a privilege that we have employment. If you look at Article 27 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights and Dignity of Persons with Disability, which Liberia is a signatory to, it speaks to this. If we look at Section 5 of the Act that established the National Commission on Disability, also speak to disability equity, and specifically states that for every 100 person employed in an entity, 4% should be persons with disabilities.
For his part, the president of the National Union of Organizations of the Disabled, Peter Flumot, appealed to partners for assistance to renovate and furnish the new headquarters of the institution.
Being an objective of calling for this great opening of the office is for both private and public sectors to help us in order to renovate this identical space and provide logistics for the smooth operation of the National Union of Organizations for the Disabled. As we currently seated, since we enter here, we even touch some area, and as we speak, we have a lot to do. We need AC, we need laptops, we need different other things to make us work successfully in the interest of persons with disabilities. When it comes to fuel, it is difficult for us to get our various weapons for their homes to bring them this far. And I want to say also to the iPhone family. iPhone gave us 2 used car, and our 2 used car, we then used it since 2023 to now. Since we got that used car, we have to maneuver along ourselves to get food, and we are not here on payroll. This is why I wanted for key government officials to come here. But when it comes to the National Union of Organizations for the Disabled, we are in the 15th political subdivision of the Republic of Liberia. We have nothing called budget. It is something that key government officials to talk about, more especially in the years of the finance minister.
The president of the National Union for Organizations of Disabled, Peter Flomo. Earlier, you heard the voice of the National Commission on Disabilities Executive Director, Samuel Dean. What if you just joined us with the time half past the hour? A reminder, you're listening to King's Newsroom of 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Service will follow in this afternoon. State prosecutors demand new medical examination for 6 Capitol building asset defendants at the AMR Expeditionary Healthcare Medical Center, but defense lawyers take exception, say the facility lacks independence. The Liberian government removes more than 1,000 public school teachers from national payroll. Authorities of the Ministry of Education classify them as a non-performing teachers. President Joseph Walker suspends Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Brian McGill. This after intense pressure from civil society groups for the Liberian National Police request forensic equipment to commence full investigation of McGill's rape allegation. Away from Liberia, the head of Malawi's Electoral Commission has warned political parties not to prematurely declare electoral victory, saying they should wait for the official results. A 3,000-year-old gold bracelet that disappeared from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Says these are still following here this afternoon on King's News. But we'll take another break. When we come back, we continue with more voices on the program. Thanks for rejoining. Feminist activist Vic Joan Woodard and a group of women's rights campaigners on Thursday stormed the headquarters of the Liberian National Police, demanded a swift arrest of Deputy Minister for Youth Development, Brian McGill. The activists said they could no longer tolerate what they described as deliberate delays in handling Deputy Minister alleged rape case.
The other people who have their families are stopping because we are on a quest now to go and start protesting, even if they go us to stop you over there as all the rest of the alleged suspects on the outside, they are willing to do it. Because the senior area consider to get out of the year, we will sit and we pray that you should give for the other people. So it is not for her and not for the other people. We want to talk for everybody. And I also want to say that we are trying to get the police and when they there are many reasons to think that this is elected only because it's a powerful figure. So we should not trust your judgment. You are taking a reason to say you are biased enough and you are protecting we should not even be discussing our 14-year-old girl. So yeah, police should tell us where my horse. We are just
In response, the Chief of Public Safety at the Liberia National Police, Fred Gate, explained that although medical findings point to rape, more substantial evidence is needed before an arrest can be made. He noted that Brian McGill has denied the allegations, and as such, the police are conducting a geolocation probe to determine his whereabouts on the day of the alleged incident.
Yesterday, we issued a question. The question was basically about key issues. Yes, you're right, when somebody is alleged to have rape, it's non-bailable aspect of that roll off. That's fine. But when they speak about non-bailable, that non-bailable aspect is relative to that with the court. The court, when you take into court on that charge, the court does not allow bail. The only way you will be allowed to be brought off from the court is two things. When proof is not evidence and presumption is not great. At that point in time, the court will allow you to get out. But when those two things are present, you can get bail or you cannot get bail. So that's it. And what we say to you is, yes, it is alleged that this lady was temporary. And
she was raped.
Come in now, listen. Okay.
She was
alleged
raped.
Okay, alleged rape.
No, she's not alleged rape.
No, listen.
The allegation goes to the suspect. She is confirmed rape.
Can you let me provide little thing that you listen to me, then you tell me.
Let's just take it one step at a time. This girl is a confirmed rape survivor. Let's call it what it is.
I will continue to, as a law enforcement officer, I will continue to use the word alleged until proven in the code of competent jurisdiction.
No.
That's why it's required. Those are the terminology we use.
No.
When you go to court, you are a suspect. And in the court, you are a defendant.
She is a suspect. But she has been confirmed raped by somebody, this suspect. So let's just say she is a rape survivor.
Okay. Let me
actually decreases the severity of it.
So let me get to the substance.
He's the Chief of Public Safety at the Liberia National Police, Fred Gate. Earlier, you heard the voice of feminist activist Vic Joan Woodard, who spoke earlier. The superintendent of Margibi County, O.J. Morris, has described the fight against illicit substances in Liberia as a national emergency, calling on national government to take a holistic approach. Speaking to large gathering Thursday, Superintendent Morris emphasized that the fight against narcotic substances should not be left solely to the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. He noted that tackling the growing drug problem is a shared responsibility that demands collective ideas and action from all sectors of society.
Because the fight against drugs is not only related to marching or the campaign to launch on a day. It's not a day event. It's a process. It's successions of calculated approach. So we want to use a holistic approach from our NMI to first identify all of the institutions and organizations that some way or the other you have been fighting drugs when it was not declared as an emergency issue. Now it has been declared as an emergency issue for all of us to respond to. We think the diversified fight against drugs will not yield the result we all yearn for. If you are going by yourself as an organization to just fight against drugs or the involvement of the county authority or the county authority doing it with all your involvement, we will be doing it, but we not understand the gains we are making, the results that we are getting, because communications fight against drugs in Margibi, we are on course. So the doer of the act are always among the innocent. Let's be aware. The doer of the acts are always among the innocent. I have a story, an experience.
He's Margibi County Superintendent O.J. Morris there speaking. The Liberian National Record Society, in collaboration with the National Disaster Management Agency on Thursday, provided updates on the ongoing implementation of Economic Community of West African State Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations funded project. The initiative, valued at US 725,000, supports more than 1,800 disaster-affected families across 4 counties. The counties include Lofat, Grand Jidet, Montserrat, and Nimba. Speaking during the joint press briefing in Monrovia, Josh Blambo, the General Secretary, and Chief Executive Officer of the Liberian National Red Cross Society, reaffirmed the Red Cross commitment to humanitarian excellence and inter-agency collaboration.
We're pleased to provide you with an update on the progress of the ECOWAS-funded humanitarian project, strengthening resilience and supporting the collaboration with the National Disaster Management Agency and other valued partners. The project is valued at $725,000, as we have said, and it is a beacon of solidarity and hope, targeting minimum of 1,820 disaffected families across 4 counties: Monserrado, Grand Cape Mount, Bong, and Nimba. And the focus of this project, as we can see, is on water, sanitation and hygiene, agriculture, and livelihood. These activities are aimed at supporting recovery, building resilience, restoring dignity. To date, we have had coordination meetings. We've had 2 steering committee meetings. The steering committee is at the level of heads of agencies and is usually chaired by the ECOWAS ambassador in Liberia. And participants include myself as head of Red Cross, the head of NDMA, Tony Ansu Dole, and the head of ECOWAS office in Liberia, Mr. Ben Roberts. So we formed the steering committee making decisions on this project, and we have our technical committee, which are made up of our technicians from NDMA, from the Red Cross, and from associated ministries like the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Public Works, and the Liberia WASH Consortium. So we have been having meetings. As I said, we've had 2 steering committee meetings, and the technical committee meeting has been meeting at least once a month. Community assessment we have been doing from August 26th to 30th. A total of 200 farmers were assessed and registered in these 4 counties. 130 of these farmers are women and 70 are men. A total of 100 acres of farmland has been identified and secured for this climate smart agriculture, and the farmers have been organized into groups. We have 20 groups of farmers, each group comprising 10 persons each.
George Blamode is the General Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of Liberia National Red Cross Society. They are speaking. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has arrested a 51-year-old businesswoman, Helena Allison, in Fishtown, River G County, with a large quantity of 3 pills of tramadol and over 100 rounds of live ammunition. According to the LDA River G County Detachment, the agents conducted a search operation at Allison's business premises following tip-off from community members and discovered 3 pillows of tramadol tablets valued at approximately Liberian dollars 36,300, along with 116 rounds of single-barrel ammunition. We'll bring you that answered in our subsequent newscasts. And away from Liberia, the head of Malawi's Electoral Commission has warned political parties not to prematurely declare electoral victory, saying they should wait for the official results. Annabelle Matalijas warning come after the parties of the 2 main presidential candidates, Incumbent Lazarus Sharura and his predecessor Peter Mutharika, claimed they had won Tuesday's poll. Speaking at a press conference on Thursday, Mrs. Madalisha said the commission was mandated to release the results. Malawians have been eagerly awaiting results, but the commission has not yet released any any, despite the fact that nearly all votes have been counted. A 3,000-year-old gold bracelet that disappeared from the Egyptian museum in Cairo was stolen and melted down, Egypt's interior ministry says. The restoration specially took at the artifact, which dates back to the region of King Pharaoh, who ruled Egypt around 1000 BC, from a safe at the museum 9 days ago. On that note, this is how I would like to go home this afternoon on this edition of King's Newsroom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. But just before we go home this afternoon, let's remind you of stories we've been following. State prosecutors demand new medical examination for 6 Capitol building arson defendants at AMR Expeditionary Healthcare Medical Center, but defense lawyers take exception, say the facility lacks independence. The Liberian government removes more than 1,000 public school teachers from national payroll. Authorities of the Ministry of Education classified them as non-performing teachers. President Joseph Walker suspends Deputy Minister for Youth Development, Brian McGill, days after intense pressure from civil society groups for the Liberian National Police request forensic equipment to commence full investigation of McGill's rape allegation. And away from Liberia, the head of Malawi's Electoral Commission has warned political parties not to prematurely declare electoral victory, saying they should wait for the official results. A 3,000-year-old gold bracelet that disappeared from the Egyptian museum in Cairo was stolen and melted down, Egypt's interior minister says. These are stories followed here this afternoon on King's Newsroom. Sam Andrews were here with the news bulletin, while Jen and Pessima sat at controls and coordinated the sounds. I would like to say many thanks to all of our reporters, correspondents, news editors who helped in making this package. Also, also better still join us this evening at 6 o'clock, at which time we will be here with another great edition of the program, King's News. My name is Newton. Toka, have a set of pleasant good afternoon. Bye-bye.